It's good to be in the new year. It's good to be in the new year. Christmas is always a great time, but there's always a little bit of a letdown afterwards, and it's good to get into the routine of the new year. Although I guess we've only had a couple of days of that. It'll set in more this coming week, and that's a good thing. At this time, at the beginning of the new year, we typically take time to reflect. We reflect on ourselves and on life. We look at the year that has just gone past, and we think about the good things that happened in it and the things that we did well, and we think about the bad things that happened maybe the things that we didn't do so well, and we look forward to the year to come, and we make plans to do again the things that we want to repeat, and we resolve to change certain things in our life, to do certain things differently, to make improvements maybe in our life. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, it's the self-examination or evaluation of ourselves and our lives and our commitment to move forward and to make goals moving forward. I think that's a good and positive thing. I hope that you've done that somewhat. People, of course, a common thing that people make a New Year's resolution about is to live more healthy. People want to exercise more, they want to eat better, and maybe that's because they didn't eat very well over Christmas. Certainly that was true of me. But people resolve to do any number of things, right? They want to start a particular project, or maybe finish a particular project, or maybe they want to visit a place that they've never visited, or they want to read certain books or do certain things, and all of that is great. People make relational resolutions. I think that's a good thing as well, that maybe this year they're going to call their kids more, or call their parents more, or maybe try to connect with somebody, a long-lost friend that they've fallen out of touch with. And those relational investments that we make, or relational resolutions that we make, I think are good things. Our daughter, Adeline, right, who's 9, has a New Year's resolution. And she came up with this all on her own. I mean, I guess we had talked about New Year's resolutions or that idea at some point, but kind of out of the blue, she said she had a New Year's resolution. Adeline's New Year's resolution is to fight less with AJ, our youngest. And we are all pulling for her. That will be a great thing for all of us, if that's to happen. Maybe Adeline is taking a little motivation from Romans chapter 12, verse 18, which says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone, right? And Adeline can't change or affect AJ, but she can, as it depends on her, live at peace with everyone. Sometimes it's not possible to live at peace with AJ. It's just how it goes. We're praying that he'll participate in this New Year's resolution, but that's a good thing, relational resolutions. Or, we just read this passage from Colossians chapter 3. It says, get rid of anger and rage and malice and these type of things. Maybe your New Year's resolution this year is to live with less anger or slander or these things. Or clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Maybe your New Year's resolution this year is to be more compassionate or kind or gentle or patient. I think that would be a good thing. Bear with each other. Forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Maybe your New Year's resolution this year is to forgive someone who has hurt you. That would be a really positive thing. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Maybe your New Year's resolution this year is to be more loving, whatever that means, and maybe in the expression of compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience. Those all would be good things. I think us resolving to do certain things, setting certain goals, moving forward, the examination of ourselves, all of that is really, really positive and constructive and helpful. But I came across a question recently that I thought was a good question for the new year. A good thing for us to reflect on, to think about. And not just at the new year. This is really a good thing for us to think about, reflect on, be reminded of on an ongoing basis, I think. And I saw the question in an article, but the writer of the article had gotten the question from Kirk Douglas, the famous movie actor. Kirk Douglas turned 103 last year. I don't know what New Year's resolutions you make when you're 103. But that is significant. His wife, Anne, turned 100 last year. I mean, for two people to still be married and both of them over 100, I mean, that's got to be really, really rare. Interesting. But a number of years ago, Kirk Douglas wrote his autobiography. Maybe he's written another one since, I don't know. But on one evening on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, he talked about his motivation for writing his autobiography. And in that came this question that was really profound for him.
But I think, John, the difficult thing is to find a reason to write autobiography. And what happened to me is one day I was driving to Palm Springs, and there was this young sailor hitchhiking. I used to be in the Navy, so I picked him up. And he ran up, got in the car, he looked at me and said, "Do you know who you are?" But I thought about it. It's funny, but that's a great question. Do you know who you are? And I thought about that, and after a while, I got to starting to think, I'm always mixed up so much in the world of make-believe, that what is reality? So that's what got me starting to write my autobiography, to answer that question. Who am I? Yeah.
It's a great question. Do you know who you are? Do I know who I am? Who am I? It's a good thing for us to reflect on. I, of course, have not read Kirk Douglas's book. I don't know how he ends up answering that question. But I got thinking about the possible answers to that question. What are the possible answers to the question, who am I? Right? Maybe the answer to the question, who am I, comes from the summation of the things that I have done. Maybe the sum total of the things that I have done is the answer to who am I. As I look back on the past year, or as I look back on my life, if I take all the good things that I have done and I subtract out all the bad things, maybe that will give me the answer to the question, who am I? The problem with that is, I can think of some things that I've done that make me feel really good. But I can also think of some things that I've done that make me feel not that good. And I want to kind of share one of each of those this morning. Or I really want to share one thing that makes me feel really good, and then kind of talk about how I deal with the bad. The good story I have thought about in the past and sharing it at other times, but just because it's kind of a fun story. But I kind of wasn't sure of its illustrative purpose or whatever. So, but it makes me feel good, and it's kind of a fun story. So, I rode public transportation in Dallas for a time before we came up here to Wisconsin when I was working with my brother. So I would get on a bus at a park and ride in the north part of the Metroplex and take it into downtown Dallas early in the morning and then ride it back in the afternoon. And you don't typically engage very much with people on public transportation, or at least that's the kind of the way it went. But I did end up meeting one guy one time that we kind of had a conversation on the way back from Dallas one time. His name was David. And I would see him occasionally, when I rode, depending on the day or whatever. But I always knew when or where he was getting on the bus. And on the way back from Dallas. And also, as I rode public transportation, I thought to myself, people sing on the bus sometimes, or these type of things. What should I do on the bus sometime, And then one day I was waiting for the bus to go home, and it just hit me what I ought to do. And I realized that David was getting on at the very next stop. So once I got on the bus, there was about a minute or a minute and a half maybe until David got on the bus. And I was standing there waiting, and it just hit me. And so I got on the bus, and I just stopped at the front, and I said, "Hey, great to see you all today. Thank you so much for going to work today and for providing for your families. It's just great to be in the world with you." I said, in about a minute here at the next stop, we're going to pick up a guy named David. And so why don't, when he gets on, we all just say, "Hi, David," because that'll be fun, and that'll make him feel really good. And so I said, so let's practice. Here we go. Ready? "Hi, David." Nobody said anything. I mean, it was just silence. I said, let's try it again. I know you do so. "Hi, David." Still, it was just crickets. I said, that's okay. I mean, once you see him, you guys will feel it. You'll feel it. So, and then I talked a little bit about that I had met David, and he got on the bus at 5:30 in the morning, and then got on the bus again at 2:30 or something. And he made the comment to me in this one time that we had talked that the bus at 5:30 is about half full. The bus at 2:30 is packed. He says, somebody's not working 8 hours here. Right? So I kind of shared that, which just seemed to lighten the mood in the bus. And I was kind of looking over my shoulder to see when we would get there. So finally we pulled up to David's stop, and sure enough, he was waiting there. And before the door opened, I just said, "Hey," nice and loud. And so David stepped in the bus, and as he got right there, "Hi, David." And they gave a rousing "Hi, David." The bus did. And I couldn't see David's reaction because I was now behind him. But everybody laughed. He obviously thought it was funny. And then I was like, I guess I'll sit down now too. And they thought that was funny, So it was just this great moment, in these public transportation where you don't typically engage with people, and it was just a fun little moment when we finally got back to Dallas, or back to the drop-off in North Plano. Everybody had to get off the bus. It was the last stop, and so somebody, just as the bus stopped and people were starting to get off, somebody said, "Bye, everybody." I mean, it kind of, created this. It was this good moment, makes me feel good. But there's things in my life that don't make me feel that good. And it is kind of a habit of mine. Not kind of, it is a habit of mine that I will think about something that I have done or something that I said, and I will mutter under my breath, "That was so stupid." And it could be something that happened last week. It could be something that happened 20 years ago. And I will still mutter to myself, "That was so stupid." I actually have changed that phrase recently to "Help me, Lord." And I guess that's better than "That was so stupid." So, but I'll be thinking about, "Oh, help me, Lord." Like remembering something that I've done. And it's a thing with me to the degree that like a month ago I thought to myself, maybe I should write all these things down that, motivate me to say this. And just to kind of get them out of my head, I don't know, the defining myself, answering the question, who am I, by the summation of the good that I have done minus the bad, it just doesn't give me a real deep sense of self-confidence. It doesn't give me this lasting and abiding sense of self-worth and peace and joy. And even the process of it, of kind of figuring my worth out, who I am based on, it just seems exhausting. I've never met anybody or heard of anybody that has found deep and lasting and abiding sense of self-worth by what they have done. I think there's got to be a better answer to the question, who am I? So then I think, well, another possible answer to that question is maybe who I am is the result of the relationships that I'm in. I'm a father to my kids. I'm a husband to my wife, a son to my parents, a brother to my siblings. I'm a friend. And relationships are significant for us. They give us meaning in life. But the difficulty with that is all of my family was here, but then they left. And relationships are just dynamic. They change. My relationship with my parents and siblings and all of that, good though it is, is not the same as it was. And someday my parents will pass on and my kids will grow up and leave the house. And relationships for us are a source of great, great joy, and they're also a source of great, great sorrow. I think there's got to be more of an answer to the question, who am I, than just the relationships that I'm a part of or the things that I've done. So then I think, well, maybe the answer to the question, who am I, is the part that I play in the story of humanity. We are all part of this global drama that is being played out here. We are all part of humanity's story, and maybe whatever part we play is significant or means something. And yet, I think to myself, I don't know, because I not only do I want to answer the question, who am I also want to answer the question, who are you? And who is everybody? And by anybody's estimation, there are people out there that have accomplished a great deal and have a lot of positive relationships and maybe would say have a great part in humanity's story, but certainly there are people out there who by anybody's estimation have not accomplished very much and have very few positive relationships, if any, and play virtually no part in humanity's story. And I think to myself, there's got to be more to the answer of the question, who am I, than just my part in humanity, although people make peace with that. I mean, this guy that's coming in a couple weeks, I asked him that. Where do you find kind of meaning in life and how do you deal with this? I guess you just make peace with it. And he does. But for me, I think there's got to be more to the answer of the question, who am I, than just the summation of what I've done or the relationships that I'm a part of or the part that I play in humanity's story. But I find the answer to that question, who am I, in the passage we just read. In Colossians chapter 3. And we skipped over it, kind of, because this is what we tend to do, or what people tend to do. We read the scripture and we're busy thinking of the things that we need to get rid of, anger and malice, and we're busy thinking about the things that we need to do, the improvements we need to make in our life, compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, and we miss the fountain from which all that comes. To me, the answer to the question, who am I? Who are you? You are God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved. You are God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved. I answer the question, who am I? By the love of God for me. I am a recipient of the love of God, and I am an ambassador of it, we read in 2 Corinthians chapter 5. And the reminder of God's love for me, that this is who I am, just frees me in so many ways. I mean, because the sailor, his question to Kirk Douglas, do you know who you are? He asks it as though Kirk Douglas may have forgotten that he was a famous movie star. And maybe the reminder of the fact that he was a famous movie star would make him feel good about what he's done and maybe the relationships that he has, and maybe the significant part he plays in humanity's story. I don't know. I don't know how Kirk Douglas felt about all of that. I don't know how Kirk Douglas answers the question, who am I today at 103? But for me, answering that question with the love of God for me just makes all the difference in my life. Because part of the answer to the question, who am I am part of the story of humanity. Part of the answer is I am the relationships that I'm involved in. I am, in part, the summation of the good and the bad that I have done. But before all that, in spite of all that, if all of that is taken away, who I am first is the love of God for me. Who you are first is the love of God for you. And that makes us equal. We are all in need of the love of God. We are all recipients of it. Paul said in this same passage that we just read, here there is neither Gentile nor Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all. That we are all equal at the point of the need of God's love and the reception of it. We are all God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved. And for me, that just makes so much difference in my life, because the love of God for me, it frees me to pursue my New Year's resolutions without worrying that who I am is defined by my accomplishment of them. It frees me to work without worrying that I am defined by what I do. It frees me to succeed, and it frees me to fail without worrying that I am defined by my successes and my failures. It frees me to joyfully engage in the relationships that I'm a part of without worrying that my identity will be stripped if those relationships change or are taken away. It frees me to participate in the story of humanity without worrying that humanity is all there is. The love of God just makes so much difference in my life as I am reminded of it and open myself to it. And how do you do that? How do you open yourself up to the love of God? I don't know exactly, but just the reminder of it for me is so significant in my life. I hope that you have some resolutions that you're pursuing. But I hope the love of God for you will enable you to pursue those things without worrying that you're defined by them. Who you are, who I am first, is the love of God for us, and that makes all the difference. I am praying in more ways than one that Adeline keeps her New Year's resolution and that AJ participates in it. I mean, if they do keep it, that will mean just wonderful and positive things for them and for us. If they don't keep it, there will be some negative consequences for them and for us. But whether they keep it or don't changes nothing about my love for them. And I've got some ideas, some things that I'm going to do to help enable Adeline to keep her New Year's resolution and for AJ to participate in it. But I know that the first thing, the most important thing in Adeline keeping her New Year's resolution is for her to know and be certain that her mom and dad love her no matter what. And I find the more I am reminded of God's love for me, the more I find myself enabled to live positively in the things I do and in my relationships and in humanity, knowing that God's love for me and for you is unconditional, it is unlimited, and it is unending. Do you know who you are? You are God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved. Believe it, and I think it'll change the new year. Let's pray together. God, we are grateful for your love for us, shown in the person of Jesus, that we remember specifically at this time of the year, at Christmas, that we remember specifically at Easter, that we remember from Sunday to Sunday, reminded of your love for us. And I pray that that reminder would enable us in the way that we look at the world and the way we look at others and the way we look at our circumstances and the way we look at ourselves. And thanks for the difference that that has made in our lives and continues to make. And so we rejoice in that this morning. We come to you through Jesus. In his name, amen.